Alright, so I've come up with a pretty interesting way of routing minecarts through junctions, such as this one, in vanilla Minecraft using chest minecarts. Now, what we first, let me explain this junction. It's a simple T-junction where you have a two-lane minecart track, and this junction is just set up so that by default any minecart going along this main line will just continue going straight. You see it'll just pass through all these junctions. Same with this one. And on this side, by default, it'll follow this path and then turn left. But then if you power the torch underneath it, it'll turn right. Same thing here. If you power the torch underneath, oh whoops, I made a mistake. That should go there. But um, anyway, if you power the torch under this one, then it'll turn onto that line, and if you power the torch under here, like there, it'll go off onto that line as well. So you basically have full control. Now this is all fine and dandy, and I have actually previous versions over here where I do this manually with trap chests. So essentially, as I'm going by in the minecart, I open the trap chest, causing this to switch. So let's see if I can just demonstrate that real quick for you. Alright, so by default we turn left, so we open the chest and we turn right instead. We do nothing and we keep going straight, but if we want to turn here, we open the chest. And so that's essentially manual routing. But the breakthrough, which I think I've found, is that I can do this completely autonomously. Now let me just fix this error that I found earlier. Okay, and then these go over here. Perfect. All right, so what I have is at each of these junctions or slightly before it, I've got a hopper which will suck one item out of the minecart as it's rolling along. And what I have down here is a way of testing whether or not that item is a water bottle or any bottle that can fit into a brewing stand. Um, and the reason this is important is because in order to completely automatically um, I guess program a route or a series of switches, you need to stack in like two separate identifiable non-stackable items. In this case, I'm using wooden swords and water bottles. Water bottles are unique in that they can fit into the brewing stand, while the wooden sword cannot. So let's just show you an example of, let's say the cart is going by and it drops in a water bottle. You can see that it switched the track, it made a little sound, and the reason it did that is because um, this hopper, which immediately sucks out of this one, uh, is locked, meaning this one doesn't work. So we let the item sit here for a little bit, give it some time to decide whether or not it's a water bottle and can go into this brewing stand. And after a little bit of time has passed, we unlock this hopper and allow any other item, such as the wooden sword, to drain away into our disposal dropper below. And this just drops any items in there, so we could, do that, and it's gone, right? But if it's a water bottle, then in that short period of time where the bottom hopper is locked, we can have it go through here, and then it goes through this hopper, triggering this comparator. And so now we know that the a bottle is sent, so we can switch the switch. And so what that allows us to do, essentially, is program a route for this cart by giving it a sequence of water bottles and some other non-stackable item. So just for this example, I'm going to say I want the cart to turn left onto this track, then I want it to continue on, so don't switch on this one, and then come along and then switch again. So we're going to say switch, don't switch, switch. So that's a water bottle for a switch and sword for don't switch, and then finally one last water bottle. So let's go see this in action. Switch, Now here it should not switch. Perfect. And then at this one, it will switch. Perfect. And so that is basically how you can fully automate a Minecraft vanilla rail network. What you can do is build much larger redstone contraptions to preload certain sequences of bottles and swords into these trap chests, or not trap chests, minecart chests, um, and send these along your rail network just ahead of someone in a normal player minecart. And that way, I use a pulse extender here to keep the switch open for a short amount of time, giving enough time for two nearby minecarts to pass in the same direction. And so I have a bit of wiring here, whose purpose is essentially given a sequence of water bottles and swords, it is able to essentially pass them through a similar, brewing stand detector. And then on the output here, we either get, water bottle signal or other item signal. And so we can use this to essentially read a sequence and then reconstruct or basically create a duplicate of that sequence and load it into a minecart. So yeah, I'm going to keep developing this, and hopefully I can come up with a sort of proof of concept, um, fully automatic network with a minecart launcher that allows a user to select any destination, and then from memory it'll essentially load in a certain sequence into a minecart and then deploy that minecart ahead of you. So then it essentially leads you to your final destination based off of its loaded binary um, memory. So yeah, I think that's about it. Let me just quickly go through uh, the redstone circuitry in case you're interested. So um, in this hopper that's pointing into the brewing stand, as soon as an item passes through, we detect that and send that through a monostable circuit, which produces a single one-tick pulse. Oh, that's not needed. It produces a single one-tick pulse, and then we put that through a little mini pulse extender that just keeps the pulse going for, I think that's 3 or 4 ticks. Anyway, but it's enough time to allow an item to drop through this hopper and then all the way down. And so that is essentially all we need. And we can actually put a chest here instead of this hopper and dropper if we want to collect our items and bring them back to some like central loading place. But it's water bottles and swords, so who cares? So we just throw them out. And this is just basically a super simple circuit to click the dropper while there are items in it. And then finally we take, if we get a water bottle, we check that, where we detect that here with this comparator, send the signal over here, and we use a repeater. This repeater is very important because it resets the signal strength, because we want a signal strength of 15. And then we have a pulse extender here, which will essentially will slowly decrement the power of the redstone until it goes back down to 0. So I can show that right now. And so that allows us to keep the switch open for a while before it resets. And of course, this can be replaced for literally any other pulse extender. It's just the important thing is that it activates before the cart is able to move from this point to that point. And then of course I've got a little note block just for debugging purposes. It's easier to hear when the switch turns as opposed to having to look at it. But yeah, should be pretty simple to set up. Once you memorize the setup, it's super easy to just copy and paste this for any junction you're at, and then yeah, full automatic routing. So thanks for watching.